Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the most likely, probably, most definitely, leaning on the side of likeliness, probably official 2024 Soggy Sports mock draft. And the reason I say probably is because I am always changing my list in my order of my prospects and things like that throughout the entire year. But I am about 8% sure that I am done rearranging at least the top of the class. And there may be a few little tweaks here and there, but this is probably as close as it's going to get. And if you've never watched one of my mock drafts before, do know that I don't really only do the draft by, I think, talent level. I also do by need of the team that is picking. So even if I don't think a player is maybe the third best player overall, I still may have him going third overall just because I personally think that he would fit that team better than who I actually think the third most talented person is. Because I do think fit and talent is a super important thing. As most GMs would tell you, they don't purely draft off of talent, they draft off of fit as well. And I mean, a perfect example of why you shouldn't only draft off of talent is because what the Minnesota Timberwolves did when they drafted 2 point guards that they thought were the most talented players on the board, and in that process missed on Stephen Curry. So who would have fit them perfectly and was exactly what they needed. So when you only pick off of need, or if you only pick off of talent, it usually doesn't go well. So that's why in my mock drafts, I like to try and put them both together, okay? So that if you really are questioning whether I'm ranking these players or you're here for a ranking of players, this probably isn't the mock draft for you. But if that isn't what you're looking for and you're just looking for a good, fun mock draft, watch the rest of the video and let's get right into it as well. So with the first overall pick, the Atlanta Hawks, I have them selecting Alex Sarr, a 6'11" power forward / center out of NBL. Now, the NBL is the Australian Professional Basketball League, and it is a pretty damn high-level league. A lot of prospects have came from there. One of the probably most namely ones that someone would know off the top of their head recently would be Josh Giddey. And in my opinion, though, Alex Sarr is probably the best player I have ever personally scouted from the NBL, and I think he has legit superstar potential. Now, there's been a few other guys that people have kind of debated whether they should go number one, and that was really Zachary Richeshear, I probably butchered his name, and then also guys like even Donovan Clingan, because they think he fits better with Atlanta. But me personally, I just think Alex Sarr is the home run number one overall pick, no matter who basically had this selection in this class, because I think Alex Sarr is a perfect modern day center, and he's just by far the best player, because he can score from all three levels. He's a very good athlete. He has a very solid ball handle for a 6'11" guy. He's very strong, very athletic. He's not very clunky. He's pretty fluid in how he plays, and all around he just has extremely high two-way potential from a 6'11" guy who can really shoot and score from every spot on the floor. Is extremely valuable. And with today's modern centers kind of going towards the more skillful sides, like guys you see from Chet and Victor Wembanyama, I think it is very important for other teams to start trying to get guys like that to help counter them a little bit. And although I don't think Alex Sarr is as good as Wembanyama or Chet, I think he definitely has the potential to reach a very high ceiling and maybe even one day be better than a guy like Chet Holmgren. So I think for sure Alex Sarr is a very good pick here, and for a team that's trying to kind of rebuild like Atlanta, I think that Alex Sarr would be an excellent building piece to go forward with. And now moving to the second overall pick, we have the Washington Wizards, and I have them selecting Reed Sheppard. Now, this could be kind of a weird pick for most people, but I am much higher on Reed Sheppard than even some people are, even though most people are pretty high on him. But he is a 6'1" point guard / shooting guard from the University of Kentucky, and in my opinion, this gives him a few things. Now, Reed Sheppard is kind of unconventional in this pick because a lot of people think they should pick a center because they lost Daniel Gafford, and they really didn't have one after that. But what a lot of people also don't really take into account is that their last year's second overall pick, Tristan Vucevic, actually played very solidly for him. Now, I'm not saying he's a long-term answer or even a starting level center in the NBA, but no matter who the Washington Wizards pick here, they're still going to be the Washington Wizards, okay? Next year, they're not going to be a playoff team no matter who they pick in this class. So with the Alex Sarr already being off the board and me not being super high on a lot of the other big name prospects in this class at the center position outside of Sarr, I have them picking Reed Sheppard because I think Reed Sheppard could play the true point guard position and would at least give them a interesting backcourt backcourt with guys like Reed Sheppard and Jordan Poole, because yes, Jordan Poole had a very rough year with the Washington Wizards last year. I do think Jordan Poole is better than what he looked like last year. Like, you don't go from looking like a very good six-man to looking like an absolute bum who doesn't know how to play basketball just because you switch teams. It was because the Wizards suck, and he was their main primary scorer, and at worst second option if you put Kuzma above him, and he was by far obviously their best guard when it comes to the offensive end, so teams were really able to focus on him. But now getting a guy like Reed Sheppard, he'll be able to be the primary ball handler, bring the ball up the floor, let Jordan Poole play his natural position at the shooting guard position, and I think for sure that although I don't think that is going to be probably their long-term or even starting backcourt when they're ultimately become a good team, I do think it could at least be interesting and serviceable for at least a few years while they currently build up this team and make them better and better as the years go on. And I think Reed Sheppard legitimately has all-star potential as well. So I think the Washington Wizards would be getting a very interesting backcourt, would make the team work a little bit better, and overall I think it would really give even guys like Tristan Vucevic time to develop and really show who they are while also getting better in the process. And it's not like their point guard position is a very strong spot on the team. I think it's currently Tyus Jones, and he's okay, but he's nothing special, and Reed Sheppard would definitely be a huge upgrade over him, so he even kind of feels a need as well. And now with the third overall pick, we have the Houston Rockets selecting Rob Dillingham, also a 6'1" shooting guard from the University of Kentucky, and I did not do that on purpose, it just kind of happened to be how it went. But the Houston Rockets, in the first place, having the third overall pick is absolutely absurd, and they could go a lot of different ways, but I have them selecting Rob Dillingham for a few different reasons. My first reason is the fact that, one, it will give them an absolute walking bucket off of their bench, and every team kind of needs a guy who off their bench can come in. You don't have to worry about offense because when he's in there, he is going to score, and that is exactly what Rob Dillingham is going to give you. Offensively, he is one of the most talented guards in this entire class, if not the most talented guard in this entire class when it comes to pure scoring and offense, and in my opinion, he has almost like Tyrese Maxey-like potential in the future as well. And then also, even in the long term, it will give them a Fred VanVleet replacement, because obviously as of right now, he will most likely not be starting over Fred at any time while he's there. But when Fred VanVleet, who is a little bit older than everybody else on the team, does ultimately either retire or leave the Houston Rockets, they will now have a guy that can pretty seamlessly replace the offense that he is going to be leaving them by the time that he is needed to do that. So I think for sure long-term and short-term, he'll be able to provide very nicely for this team. And then also it would just like add to one of the best already young cores in the entire NBA. This Rockets young core is one of my favorite in the NBA, and although they're not super talented just yet, I mean, not super talented, but not super effective would probably have been a better word, I think that the Houston Rockets have a very bright future, and the number 3 overall pick will only be set to make them even better. And with the 4th overall pick, we have the San Antonio Spurs with their first lottery pick of the night, selecting Matis Bazelis out of the Ignite. He is a 6'10" power forward who is extremely offensively talented, and in my opinion, he would be a perfect fit alongside Victor Wembanyama, because now you're giving him a front court partner that very much mimics his same kind of skill set. He's big enough to still rebound and block shots and do things that you need your power forward to be able to do, but he's also offensively talented enough to give other teams' power forwards absolute fits, and he also will space the floor due to his shooting ability at that position as well. And with Wembanyama and Mattis on the same team, I think the offense from that front court would be almost unmatched from any other one in the entire NBA, and would probably be the most offensively skilled and talented big man duo in the entire NBA, and one of the best ones the NBA has seen in a long time. And as they mature and develop and get better and better at playing together, I think that they could be one of the scariest teams in the entire NBA from the front court perspective. And I just think overall he is an extremely good individual player as well, and I think he even has all-star potential. So pairing a potential all-star level power forward that is super offensively talented with Victor Wembanyama, probably the most talented big man we have ever seen in the NBA, and will probably go down as one of the better ones in the NBA as well, I think that they will fit very well together, and it will be very hard to guard both of them on a nightly basis. And now number 5 overall, we have the Detroit Pistons. How they're picking at number 5, just side note here, how they got so unlucky to not only be by far the worst team in the NBA for years running at this point, to go that long without a win in that crazy streak they had in the middle of the season of not getting a win, for them to be picking number 5 overall is absurd. But hopefully this is a lifeline, because I have them selecting Ron Holland, a 6'7" small forward / power forward out of the Ignite. Now Ron Holland is falling really because he got injured and he's a little raw on the jump shotting ability. But if his potential does hit, the Detroit Pistons would be getting an absolute superstar if he hits, because his athleticism is absolutely unmatched. He's a very solid ball handler. His defense could be unreal. So if he gets a jump shot, he could be extremely, extremely scary. And pair that with the fact that they just got Fred Vinson from the New Orleans Pelicans, who is known around the league as one of the best shot doctors in the entire NBA, you have a very nice recipe for success. And if Ron Holland hits, you are probably having one of the best two-way players in the entire NBA. And on top of that, Ron Holland could kind of fill their weakest starting spot. And I know it's the Pistons, so really none of their starters are solidified or super talented by any means. But the power forward is probably their weakest spot, although I do kind of like Isaiah Stewart. I think Ron Holland would provide an upgrade over there and make their ceiling a lot higher, and pairing him with Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey, and even guys like Azur Thompson and Jalen Duren could be very, very fun, and there'd be a very athletic, very fast young team that you could really build around, especially if Ron Holland is even really half of what his potential actually is. And number 6 overall, we have the Charlotte Hornets selecting Kyle Filipkowski, a 7-foot power forward or center out of Duke University, and I would think he would probably be a power forward for the Charlotte Hornets team. And overall, Kyle Filipkowski, I think, fits this team extremely, extremely well, because yes, not a lot of people talk about Charlotte, rightfully so, because they're the Charlotte Hornets, but when they're fully healthy, they could actually have a fairly solid team, especially if they make this pick, because Mark Williams is actually probably one of the more underrated centers in the entire NBA, and if you could pair a very offensively talented power forward alongside him, that would really add a very cool dynamic with their bigs, because Mark Williams could be kind of the really athletic, strong shot blocker, rebounder, dunking type guy, lob threat guy, while Kyle Filipkowski provides the floor spacing and the shooting and the offensive skill set, while also still being a very solid defender and rebounder, and that could make a very fun power forward center combination and would be forming one of the better young big men duos in the entire NBA as well. And I just think overall it would also even make the world easier for guys like LaMelo Ball, because LaMelo Ball is a very good passer and scorer, as we know, when he is healthy. So having a big man that can not only catch lobs like Mark Williams, but then also another big man that can help spread the floor for them would make his life so much easier by giving him another option and another wrinkle that the defense has to think about when they're trying to guard LaMelo as well. And it really, I think, would fit extremely well. And the Charlotte Hornets, I think, would be getting much, much more talented if they were able to make a trade just like this one. And now 7th overall, we have the Portland Trailblazers selecting Zachary Richeshear. He is a 6'9" small forward out of France. Now Zachary, I think, is a extremely, extremely fun player. He has tons and tons of potential on both sides of the ball. His defensive versatility, being 6'9", super lengthy, and a fairly good athlete and fast as well, gives him a lot of potential on the perimeter defense and also his shot blocking ability. And then on top of that, his offense isn't very bad either. He has a fairly solid shooting efficiencies. Now, he went through a little bit of a slump about midway through the year, but he really came on towards the end, and he was very solid in the beginning as well. So I think for sure his offense will eventually come around. Maybe his shooting just needs to be developed a little bit, but as time goes on, I think that's going to happen. And on top of that, he also feels a need for the Portland Trailblazers, as I don't think Chris Murray will be their long-term solution there. I know they have Shadion Sharp as well, but I think they can start together with him playing maybe a little bit of power forward. So I just think overall the Portland Trailblazers would be feeling a need, getting a potential star player if he develops correctly, and at worst, you're getting an elite defender who has a little bit of offensive upside, but in my opinion, he's an elite defender that has also elite offensive upside as well. And now going 8th overall, we're going back to the San Antonio Spurs with their 2nd lottery pick of this class, and I have them selecting Stephon Castle, who's a point guard or shooting guard out of UConn, who just won their back-to-back championships. He is 6'7" as well, so he is definitely on the bigger side for a guard, but with him being here, one, it fills another gigantic hole that they have in their roster. One of the biggest holes in this roster is the fact that their point guard position just isn't the best. Now, yes, Jones is okay, but he's definitely not the long-term answer, and I think Stephon Castle definitely has the potential to do that because he is a very solid two-way guy who can play very solid defense with his size and with him being a bigger guard, as well as being a very solid passer, as well as being able to score when he needs to as well. And I just think overall with the coaching of Greg Popovich and the development system that they have over there in San Antonio, I think Castle would fit them very well. And keep in mind, this would be a scenario where they also had Mattis Bezalis on their team, so you would now have a really big four going forward of Wembanyama, Devin Vassell, Mattis Bezalis, and Stephon Castle, which is an extremely solid core going forward. And on top of that, it's not even their whole young core, because even some other guys on this young core that I haven't mentioned or would be guys like Keldon Johnson, Sidi Sissoko, Jeremy Sochan, and even Malachi Branham. So this team could be extremely solid and one of the more fun young teams going forward as well. I just think overall, if they were able to do this or something similar or this exactly in the draft night for the San Antonio Spurs, it would help their future tremendously going forward. And now 9th overall, we have the Memphis Grizzlies selecting Cody Williams. He is a 6'8" small forward out of Colorado. Now, he kind of had a weird end to his season in college. Like, Cody Williams spent like the first probably 2.5 quarters of the season being one of the best prospects in the entire world, really, in this class. And just overall, people were super high on him, and then he got injured, and his coach benched him, and he never really started again after that. He even came off the bench in their one NCAA game as well, or NCAA tournament game, should I say. And it kind of was a weird end to the season, which I think kind of put a bad taste in some people's mouth. But in my opinion, Cody Williams is still a very solid two-way guy. Now, although I don't think he's a star or superstar or anything like that, I do think he is a very high-level role player potential and maybe even all-star potential in there. You never know, but I think he kind of just fits what Memphis likes to have in a guy who's very solid on both ways, can guard everybody, high potential, is going to be very reliable and things like that. And if Memphis is fully healthy next year with Ja Morant, they're going to probably be a playoff-level team. And with a guy like Cody Williams being pretty much, in my opinion, a guaranteed at least role player in the league, he would be a very nice addition to this team. And if he does hit all the way, you could even be adding another all-star level player alongside Ja Morant as well. So he could be a very fun guy. And I just think with him being mature, with him kind of just already probably being a role player in the NBA from day one, if the Memphis Grizzlies choose to use him like that, I think he could be a very solid pick for them as well. And now for the first pick in double digits, we have the Utah Jazz selecting Dalton Knecht. He is a 6'6" small forward out of the University of Tennessee, and he played extremely, very well in college this season. He led his team pretty deep into the NCAA tournament, and he was just overall an extremely solid player. He has very high solid two-way potential, and he just fills a need as well for Utah, and he kind of is the player that they really like to have, a consistent guy who's going to be able to play both ways, and just is really going to be able to be a solid contributor to them for day one. And I think, especially if they trade John Collins and Lauri Markkanen, I think him, Taylor Hendricks, Bryce Sensabaugh, and then also they even drafted someone else that I'm not thinking about right now, but I do think that their entire draft class from last year plus going into this year, if they're able to select someone like Dalton, I think would be extremely fun to watch going forward, and they would just all around be one of the more fun young teams going forward and just have tons of potential as they grow together as well. And now 11th overall, we have the Chicago Bulls selecting Dillon Jones. He is 6'6", he's a small forward / power forward out of Weber State, and all around I am extremely high on Dillon Jones. In my opinion, he is a Weber State version of Cam Whitmore, and I think he has all-star potential written all over him. I just think he has very high two-way potential, and we see with the success Cam Whitmore has had in the NBA how successful that archetype can be, and I do think for sure Dillon Jones has that same upside as well. He just hasn't proven it on a big stage with a big name team, but I do think that his talents are going to translate very nicely, and with the Chicago Bulls having kind of a weirdly built team and them having a weird draft philosophy as well, I do hope Dillon Jones would be the first step in the right direction for them and really could play a very nice role with them going forward, and maybe even give them a guy with potential star talent on their roster as a very young player. And now coming into the home stretch, we have the 12th overall pick with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Once again, it is insane that they have a lottery pick, but I have the Oklahoma City Thunder selecting Kel'el Elware, a 7-foot big man out of Indiana. Now, Kel'el, I think, is an extremely talented offensive big. He can can legitimately score from all three levels. His height still lets him play defense, block shots, do everything you want your big man to do. He's just also a lot more skillful and talented than most big men are, and I think he fits the modern day center mold extremely well. And you could be asking, why would they want a guy like him if they already have Chet Holmgren on the roster? But in my opinion, one of their biggest holes is the fact that they don't have a legit backup big man. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Jalen Williams, and I'm not talking about their starter Jalen Williams, I'm talking about their backup, the one that takes a lot of charges. I really like him as a backup power forward and even a part-time backup center if the team they're playing matches up well against a small ball center, or they want a small ball center for whatever reason. I think he fills that need very well. But I do think it's still very valuable to have a very similar center to your own, and that is exactly what Khalil Elware would be doing, especially early on. He would be their backup center who would still provide good shot blocking while also providing a similar skill set to Chet Holmgren, making the team not have to switch their style of play just due to the fact that Chet Holmgren would be having to sit out for a rest or whatever reason it would be. And then on top of that, with Chet Holmgren having potential injury issues like we saw in his rookie season, now although he was fully healthy this year, so this is just a possibility. Now, if Chet Holmgren would go down with a prolonged injury, they would have a big man that kind of fits his same skill set, and they wouldn't have to change their style of play due to it. And I just think overall he would fill a lot of different needs and really check off some of the few holes that this Oklahoma City roster actually does have, and overall could be a great addition to this team. And 13th overall, we have the Sacramento Kings selecting Tyler Smith. Now, Tyler Smith is a 6'10" small forward from the G League Ignite, and he is a excellent and very fun player to watch. He has legitimate star potential, he has extremely high two-way potential, and he kind of is a Trey Murphy-esque player. Very tall, sharpshooter, freak athlete type guy, and that is exactly who Tyler Smith is. He's a guy that you're going to get great athleticism from, a guy who can basically guard all 5 positions and at least 1 through 4 pretty much comfortably, and due to his elite athleticism and size, it gives him a ton of versatility on both sides of the basketball. And when you have a 6'10" freak athlete who can shoot the 3 at a very high clip, that is always an extremely valuable player to have, especially in today's modern day standards. And you see how good Trey Murphy is, Tyler Smith has the exact same upside. And now with the final pick in this class, we have the Portland Trail Blazers once again selecting, and I have them selecting Jalen Tyson. Now, Jalen Tyson, in my opinion, is one of my favorite players in this class that's kind of underrated. Some people have him going late first, mid first, early lot. Like, they have him going in a lot of different spots. In my opinion, Jalen Tyson is definitely a lottery talent. He has a very high ceiling. He can score from all 3 levels at a very nice rate. He can create his own shot. He can catch and shoot the 3. He can really do whatever you ask him to do. And he has fairly solid two-way potential as well. Now, it could be a weird fit for Portland due to the fact that they have Chris Murray, Shadion Sharp, and they have a good amount of wings already on their roster, and especially if they did end up drafting Zachary Rich this year, like I said, I think they should, but I think Zachary can play the power forward position, and Jalen Tyson could fit very nicely at the small forward position, but then you would kind of have the question on what you would end up doing with Shadion Sharp, so I do think it would be kind of a weird fit, especially early on, but I think they could definitely make it work, because I think the talent of Jalen Tyson is just kind of hard to pass up at this point in the draft, and overall I just think he would be a very solid addition to this Portland Trail Blazers team, who's really just trying to add as much talent as they possibly can, and I just think overall he could be a very nice addition. But unfortunately, guys, that's going to be my first video. So comment below, do you agree with me? Do you like the picks that I made? What picks do you think the team should make? I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. And just before you comment it below, because I know they're coming, I know Nikola Topic wasn't in this, and I know Donovan Clingan wasn't in this as well. You don't have to comment it. I'm just not that high on those players, and a lot of people happen to be. I'm just not, and I'm not going to put them in here just because a lot of other people have a different opinion on a prospect than me. I'm not going to just artificially put them there so people don't disagree with me. I would just rather not do that, and that is just my opinion. I could be wrong, I could be right, who knows, and that's what makes this a draft so interesting. And if you did like one point, hit like button and subscribe button, I mean, that's a word to me, and I hope you have a blessed day, because I had a blessed day, so you need to have a blessed day. All glory to God. See you in the next video. Goodbye. Boo. Blah.